It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
A fine Saturday matinee to you, Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning. I have just a peeking of sunlight as we record this. The sky is changing, Andy. It's getting lighter in the morning, and that buoys my mood.
Lifts your spirits, as they say.
It does, sir. It does. Huzzah.
Hear, hear. I feel like we need to, just sing. What's that Good Morning Sun
Oh,
song?
what a beautiful
that.
morning.
Little Oklahoma to get the morning going.
Don't get me started. Problem is, I hate Oklahoma. Not so much I'll tell you why. Because as a lad who was born in Oklahoma, it's right. It's right. It's right. That's what we say in Oklahoma. I was introduced to the musical Oklahoma way too early and way too often. And so I know all the words and I resent them. I know there are some big Oklahoma fans, but
I wouldn't say I'm a big Oklahoma fan.
I know.
But I've grown into it. I used to not like it, actually. And really it was just because of the Poor Judd is Dead song that really got on my nerves. But I don't know. I guess I came to grow a stronger appreciation for it.
Well, that's a real shame.
I can't wait to talk about it one day on the show. It's going to be great. That'll be our series of movies based on states.
Right. What?
Let's see, Alaska.
Andy, would you tell me? Okay, we've got Alaska.
I think it's just Alaska.
Is it? I don't know.
I know there's a mystery Alaska.
Movie.
But I think there's an Alaska
based
also.
On states.
Yeah.
Let's ask the Google. Then
California. Wasn't there a California?
But isn't it, that was a TV show with a K?
No, it was a movie, California, with Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I don't know if that counts. It's misspelled.
Does the Free State of Jones count? Oh, gosh.
Hawaii.
There's
Hawaii. Didn't they do a Hawaii from?
I have no idea. All I know is that these are the huge state books that you're talking about, right?
Well, Hawaii for sure, yes.
But
Alaska wasn't. That was a Thora Birch kids movie.
Okay, all right.
I'm looking forward to this series though, more and more.
It's unfortunate. What else? What have you seen this week?
What have I seen this week? It's been a slower week. I don't know if I've really caught up with that much. I watched a really interesting World War II film from Russia called Come and See, which was quite a unique war story told through the eyes of a child that I really found quite powerful. I know some people love it, some people hate it, but I really liked it. So that was probably the big one for me that that hit me this past week.
That's been out for a while. That's not new, right? That's early 90s?
85.
85. Oh, dear.
Quite a while ago.
Well, I'll put it on the list. Worth it?
Definitely.
Okay.
What about you?
So I ended up, let's see, I guess this was last week. I saw Molly's Game for the show and then wasn't on the show. But at least I wasn't spoiled.
Right.
That's usually what happens, right? When I'm not on the film board, I have to edit you guys talking about a movie I haven't seen. So pox on that. But I did see 3 Billboards.
Oh, great!
Which was I
have not.
Sure.
I have not seen it.
Oh, it's exceptional, and I'll tell you what to look for: fantastic, really stunningly good use of the character of the sheriff. This is Woody. Just use of him in this film to do something really interesting in this film, I can't. I don't want to spoil it for you. I'll spoil it for everybody else, but I don't want to spoil it for you. So I'm going to shut up. But I can't wait for you to see it, and we should then talk about it.
I look forward to it.
All right. Well, it was great. That's all I've seen. I am disappointed to hear that our film board schedule is shaken up because of all of the nonsense going on at Marvel. I'm not sure why it happened, but New Mutants, the next mutant movie that I was looking forward to possibly the most, has been pushed back almost a year into 2019, which is bananas. Gambit's been pushed back another 5 months or something to June of 2019. They've lost their director again. I don't know if that's a good thing that it's pushed to June or a practical thing just because of their director woes. It seems like that's a film in great confusion. We get Deadpool 2 weeks ahead of schedule and now a week ahead of Solo. That's moved. A lot of chaos over at Marvel, and that's disappointing.
I'm really curious. It didn't sound like New Mutants was getting pushed because of the Disney Fox merger and all of that.
Yeah, like licensing.
No,
something or other.
It sounded from what I read is that whoever it was who was in charge, I don't know if now it's Fox or Disney. They just didn't think it was scary enough, and actually they were going back. They wanted to make it. It's I don't know. I've heard both things where it was they wanted it to be more mainstream, but now I'm hearing that they want it to be more scary and maybe less mainstream. So I'm curious, and I don't know if it's just a state of confusion that it's put them in, but a 10-month push seems quite large. And, there have been films that have suffered this in the past, and generally speaking, it hasn't boded well. So
yeah,
I'm really curious to see exactly what goes on with this one.
Yeah, 10 months, man. That's enough to do a lot of reshoot.
Yeah, they can shoot the whole movie again.
Very disappointing to hear that, and we'll have to pick another film for the film board schedule.
Yes,
which is also disappointing.
It is.
Anyway, I know your schedule is tight today. You want to jump right into trailers?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, what's yours?
So my trailer, I love a good horror movie, Pete.
I've heard this.
I do. It's true. Mm-hmm. And so I was looking at the list of trailers released this week, and instantly the one that caught my eye was the one called Ghost Stories, because, hey, it sounds like an interesting horror movie. So I checked it out, and the trailer looks pretty interesting. What I found most interesting is just the constant flood of text on the screen emphasizing how scary it was, how original it was, how it was the best British horror movie of the modern century, just all this stuff. I'm like, well, they certainly are, putting a lot of high praise on this movie. It looks interesting. I'm curious about it. It's about this professor who doesn't really buy into the supernatural, and he comes, like, somebody says, "Oh, really? Well, look at these 3 cases that I could never explain." And so he goes on kind of a quest to dig into these 3 particular stories and try to figure out if there is something to them or not. And you don't get a lot. You get little glimpses of things happening throughout. Martin Freeman is one of the 3 people he's talking to. Alex Lothar is another one. He was in a really interesting episode of Black Mirror. Nicholas Burns, Andy Nyman, an interesting looking cast of a lot of people I don't know specifically, but interesting faces. Certainly Martin Freeman I know. But it has a sense about it that I feel carries some nice creepy weight to it. So I'm actually hoping that it's going to be something that works quite well. So what do you think of this one?
No, it was creepy. I'm most interested in the Martin effect. I think I'm just fascinated by that guy, and I think it's going to be. I think it's interesting to see him in a position that or in a character that is darker.
Yeah, definitely.
He's in it's interesting, his role in Sherlock. I think the first episode of the first season of Sherlock, we got to see, him moving in this direction, the sort of the PTSD and the war veteran and the things he's seen have kind of damaged him and made him dark. And I think there were hints of him as kind of a darker character. And then, it became about Sherlock as it should, and much less about Watson. And I think we were robbed a little bit of seeing what he's capable of as an actor. So I'm excited about it for that reason alone. Really not excited to go see it.
It looks creepy. I'm curious if it's going to live up to all the text hyping it throughout the trailer, That's my big question, but it still piqued my curiosity. So, Ghost Stories, that's my trailer. It looks like it's opening in the UK, April 13th, Germany also in April, the Czech Republic in June. Right now, the US only has a 2018 date scheduled on the calendar. It doesn't give a specific month or day. So I guess we'll have to wait a little bit to see when we get release over here.
What are you gonna do? My trailer, Andy, is The Vanishing of Sydney Hall. Comes from writer-director Sean Christensen, co-written by Jason Dolan. It is the story of a writer that finds early sort of accidental success, according to IMDb, and at a very early age, and he ends up becoming, I gather, overwhelmed by the success and then disappears. The real story is, at least told in the trailer, is that a character named the Searcher, played by Kyle Chandler, is looking for this young author and trying to find out, what his story is, why he's disappeared 5 years later after the fact, and he starts getting clues, like this mysterious stranger walks into a bookstore and goes to a specific section and takes all the books off the shelf and lights them on fire in a trash can in the middle of the bookstore, and we're led to believe that is this author, and he's actually burning his own books, and so there's quite a mystery. Now, this is one that's been floating around. It was released at Sundance in January of last year. So it's been floating around for a long time, but we just got this trailer for it 2 days ago, and uncovered the rest of the cast for me. Janina Gavankar, which is a terrible pronunciation, I know, but Michelle Monaghan, Elle Fanning, Logan Lerman, Kyle Chandler, Blake Jenner, Nathan Lane, Tim Blake Nelson. The cast is full of people that I really, really like. And it's a story about an author. What are you going to do? I have a thing for these stories. So, Vanishing of Sydney Hall, I'm very curious about it. What do you think?
I think it looks really interesting. It's one of those tricky kind of dramas that there's this element of mystery. There's this element of strong character that is really going to be kind of the strength of the story, and you get a little bit of it in the trailer, and when you're watching the trailer, you're really kind of hoping that the film is going to live up to what it's setting up. I find Logan Lerman just one of the most fascinating young actors out there today. I really enjoy watching him. What he brings to the screen is really exciting. Same with Elle Fanning. And the rest of the cast, I agree. Lots of great faces. And of course, I mean, this is an A24 release. So they typically see interesting projects and bring them forth. It is interesting to me that it took so long to actually get picked up. I don't recall having heard this on A24's roster anytime recently. So I wonder if it's just a recent acquire that they're now going to push out. But it really, I mean, I don't know. I just felt like this has the potential to be something that could really stand out as a film, or if nothing else, at least for some great performances from the cast within.
Yeah, the comments that are coming up, and it's so far very highly rated from very few reviewers. The folks who've seen it at Sundance and other festivals around the world, really share the same tone. An exceptional trilinear character study with outstanding performances both in front of and behind the camera. That represents a sort of consistent tone of the sort of reviews, these sort of 9-star reviews for this film that are showing up. So I'm very excited to see it. I think it's going to be great. And like yours, I don't have a specific release date. It's just 2018, but that the trailer dropped 2 days ago as we record this makes me think that it's they're going to be dropping a date soon. That's my hope.
Very cool.
All right, Andy, what is our list today?
Well, as you know, Pete, so Die Hard with a Vengeance is the film that we talk about on the show this week. And so that was an interesting film in which Jeremy Irons, as the antagonist, we only ever hear his voice from the beginning of the film all the way to about 47 minutes when we finally see him on screen. And so we decided for our list, let's bring in some films in which the antagonist makes a late entrance. And so that's what we're doing.
Man, This was much harder than I thought it was going to be, which is weird, right?
The hardest part for me was like I was trying to find them, and there's no easy way online to go, okay, so at what point did this character enter the film, right. Without having to like pull them out one by one and look at them. So it's like, I think that they entered pretty late. We'll see. we'll see if anyone calls us out.
I actually, I have I too did not watch these films again prior to talking about them, but I think some of mine, you'll have to see. 2 of the 3, I think, make such a late appearance that they probably no longer count. It's so we'll see how this works. But how should we decide who goes first? Do you?
I say you go for it.
Oh dear. Okay. Well,
unless you want me to, but
no.
I'm trying to be generous here.
I will I'll get rid of my I think weakest pick first, and that is. I think you'll see this coming. It's the great Christopher Plummer vehicle, The Usual Suspects, where the story is told in in hindsight by the wonderful Plummer character Verbal Kint, left on one of the only survivors on a burning ship, and it ends up being a ghost story about Kaiser Soze, and we don't discover who the antagonist really was, even though we knew him all along, until the last seconds of the film. And this is one of my very favorites. I think it's just a wonderful film with wonderful character performances throughout. And I remember being really floored when they revealed who the ultimate antagonist was in the film. Really floored, and I love being surprised like that. So it was that's my first pick. Does it count?
I think it's fair to say it counts because it's an interesting the way it's revealed. So sure, it might be cheating, but hey, we like to cheat on these lists.
Well, and it's not like Blair Witch Project where the antagonist kills the kids and we never see him, right? I think that was the thing that I had to wrestle with was, do we actually ever really get to know who the antagonist is? And so in this case we do. So I feel like that's okay.
It was a good year for Plummer because 7 also pops up in the year,
right,
and we don't see the antagonist until much later in the film. Excellent.
That's funny.
Excellent.
All right. So what's yours?
So my first one, I feel like I'm going with an obvious choice, and it's a film I can't say I saw it once. I remember enjoying it. I can't say it's like one of my favorites or anything, but I do think it was done really interestingly because of the nature of the story and the way the antagonist interacts with the protagonist. This is the 2003 film that Joel Schumacher did, Phone Booth, which I think is, I just remember being really, at first I was like, wow, that's kind of a stretch. This guy's going to be stuck in a phone booth talking to the bad guy for the whole movie. But I actually felt like they pulled it off, and it was a really interesting movie. Colin Farrell plays Stu Shepard, this publicist who, he's got this wife, Rhoda Mitchell. He's screwing around with Katie Holmes. My recollection of it, he's not a great guy. And then he hears this, he uses this phone booth to call his lover. And just things happen. The phone starts ringing. He picks it up, and then it's the caller who knows who he is, says, "Don't leave the phone booth, or I'll kill you." And it goes into this whole story of kind of him as he really kind of has to kind of like, it's almost like this confessional. He has to kind of confess his sins and become this better person over the course of the story while only hearing this voice over the phone. And it turns out it is Kiefer Sutherland. But you don't like the way that it's built is just such an interesting story because it's all over the phone. So that's my first choice here, Phone Booth.
Well, that was my next choice, Andy. I got skunked. That's okay. I'll eat it. It's also my second pick, and I just want to add that the reveal of ultimately the antagonist in the very end of the film as the dark angel of fidelity, I think is I thought was actually a really nice twist. So that is my only other input on that film, and that's why it it becomes the namesake of our list, the phone booth late antagonist list. So I'll let you go again.
So for my next choice, I am going to go with it's I think a one of Disney's best films. It's one that I think tells a story in a way that is really unique, the way that it unfolds. It's one that I think largely is considered a classic. It's 1942's Bambi, and the antagonist is Man, and Man comes in late. And of course, it's one of those films that everybody talks about as how traumatic it is because Man comes in and kills Bambi's mom. And that's kind of the big thing about that film. But it takes a while before you even realize that Man is this kind of this omniscient threat that's out there, and eventually, accidentally leads to the forest burning toward the end, and kind of the rebirth of the forest. But it's one of my favorite Disney films. I just think it's just so impressive to look at the animation style, what they were doing with it, just the characterizations. There are some elements that I might say are dated for the 40s, but on the whole, I think it's just a 5-star classic. So that's my next one, Bambi.
I was going to pick Bambi versus Godzilla, but it was so short.
Oh, that's funny.
That one has a clearer antagonist, which also comes late in the sequence.
Right,
you got to admit,
the Bigfoot.
The Bigfoot. My third pick is actually it's our joint second pick. Redux. It is Grand Piano. I've talked about this while ago, or not too long ago. I just saw it, and I really enjoyed it. This is from director Eugenio Mira and writer Damien Chazelle, which is actually why I saw it. I wanted to wrap up the Damien Chazelle thing in my life because I loved Whiplash so much. It is a thriller. A pianist with stage fright endures a performance under the eyes of a mysterious sniper who will shoot and kill him if a wrong note is played. Well, I love the central sort of heist motif of this film. I think it's very clever. The fact that the whole thing takes place largely in the theater after a few little scenes of traffic in the beginning. Elijah Wood is the piano player, and the mysterious sniper is actually very clearly revealed in this one. It's not, he doesn't leave with an untold story. You know exactly who he is. You know exactly how he got here, why he is here. It's just generally really fun to watch. And most importantly, Alex Winter is in this film as the usher. Now, you may remember Alex Winter, Andy, as the blonder half of Bill and Ted. I feel like I haven't seen Alex Winter in forever. It turns out he's been doing a lot of TV. He's been around, but there was a long break between 1999 and 2007 where he didn't do anything, so it was fun to see him in this film as the usher. So it was a fun little film, and it's worth seeing if you like these sorts of thrillers. And there you have it. It's
also, I haven't seen it, but I do have the soundtrack, and it's really just some great music. It largely was designed to be kind of this piano concerto that gets played. And so I just really, really nice stuff. I like it quite a bit.
That is really true. And the final piece, see, again, you haven't seen it, so I don't want to spoil you. But the play of the final piece is actually fascinating, and it's and quite good. Although I can't imagine this is one of those Damien Chazelle things where he actually makes the actor learn to play the piano. He wasn't directing this thing, and I think I'm pretty sure this is an effectively impossible piece to actually play the way they want it played in the film. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But it's a fun little movie and it's worth seeing.
Awesome.
There you go.
Well, for my final pick, Pete, I am going with what is, again, what I would say is largely considered a classic. And it's such an interesting script, the way that it's designed, because you don't really know who the antagonist is. I'm talking about Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 film, Psycho. We start the film following Marion Crane as she steals this money, and we're like, okay, so she's the psycho. And then it's through the entire first act of the film, we're following her before she finally gets to the Bates Motel and meets Norman Bates. And we, the way that the story is set up, we kind of think that Marion is maybe the psycho, and she's the one who's stealing money, and she's kind of losing her mind. And then, of course, we get this idea that Norman's mother lives up in the house, and there's something mysterious about her. And of course, it leads to the fantastic shower scene and the rest of the film. But it is a while before we meet Norman Bates. It's even longer before we meet his mother, and the big reveal at the end as to what's really going on in the story, of course, that really kind of puts a lot of what we've seen in a new perspective. Really fantastic film, and really just a wonderful way to toy with us as to who the antagonist of the film actually is.
That is the most valuable pick this week. I can't believe I didn't think of Psycho, Andy. That is a great, it's an exceptional pick for this list.
I thought it worked pretty well, so thank you.
Well played. MVP.
Would you like some alternates that I had picked?
I sure do.
Okay, so these are, again, from fuzzy recollection, so we'll see, or some of them are. But my recollection is that we don't meet Captain Barbossa in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, for quite a while. I think it's probably, at least 40 minutes before he pops into that movie. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Skyfall. I don't think Silva pops in until we get to that island, his little island paradise that he's on. Same thing with Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Django Unchained. I feel like it's a long time before he finally makes it into that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of setup.
Likewise, Orson Welles in The Third Man. And my final pick was HAL 9000 in 2001.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
No, that's a tricky one because you don't really have any characters that you're following until the second half of the film. So, but still.
I think I was unfairly limiting my thinking. I did come up with a Negotiator, which I struggled with because, again, I haven't seen it. It's also it was a second Christopher Plummer vehicle. But it did have Samuel L. Jackson, and that's originally why I wanted to pick it, because there's a character turn in there we don't discover as the antagonist, I think, until late. But my memory of it was weak. And the other one is Righteous Kill with De Niro, and I feel like my memory of that was too shady to be able to make a case for it either. So not a great selection on my part this week. It was tough. Just couldn't get the gears going early this morning. What are we going to do this coming week for our
Live
film?
Free or Die Hard. What are we going to do?
Well, okay. So my first thought was something involving, hacking, hacker movies, computer hacker movies, hacking to save the world movies.
I love the idea of movies where they like take down the country. Or, it's like, because that movie, it's all about, taking down the infrastructure of the United States, and I think that's, I don't know if that's something we could actually come up with that many other films to discuss, but I feel like there have to be some, where, they took down the power structure of the country. I mean, that's what they were trying to do in Fight Club,
I feel like there have to be some. I think we've been there before, Andy, and it's not a great way to build a list.
Favorite stamp movies, yeah. Oh, yes, I remember.
I feel like there have to be some, but I hear you, and I think I agree with you. I feel like there have to be some. If we just think, we can probably come up with it. It's...
Well, I say we go with it, and, if we end up having to cheat a little bit, then we end up having to cheat a little bit.
So maybe we'll call this the fire sale movies.
Fire sale movies.
Everything must go.
Now, the movie Everything Must Go doesn't count.
Okay, fair enough.
It is quite the same.
All right. We can do it. We can do this, Andy. If we just have a little faith.
If we just believe.
If we just believe, we can make it happen. Good set of lists. Check the show notes for links to trailers if you want to catch up on these movies, and you should. They're good movies, especially that phone booth. Apparently, it's double good. Thanks everybody for joining us on this fine Saturday matinee, and thank you all for being gracious supporters on Patreon. We
love you all.
We love you. Kiss, kiss, miss, miss.
Happy Saturday.
Kiss, 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 miss, miss.